All right, Intune Remote Help Unattended Access is here, August of 2026. I'm Mark Layton, an M365 engineer from the Avail Group. You can reach me here, send me an email, or find me on LinkedIn. Looking forward to connecting with you if you need help. So from an admin perspective, we're going to talk about unattended access with remote help, which is now available for Windows devices. It's always been available for Android, but now Windows devices included. Really quickly, for anybody that doesn't know, there is an article that you'll want to go and look at. It's called Remote Help on Windows. Unattended support with remote sign-in is here, okay? All right, so here's what we're going to talk about. Why does it matter? Some quick licensing just to talk about the prereqs. We'll talk about the Remote Help app. We're going to talk about unattended prereqs, some of the things you have to look out for. And then just my testing. I spent a good bit of yesterday working on this, so I'm just going to share all my testing with this. So here's a rough agenda of what we're going to do. Okay, why does it matter? In March of 2023, Intune Suite came out. Intune Suite is a capability, is a set of features and capabilities that sits on top of Intune, core Intune. And so the Intune Suite came out, and Remote Help was part of that. And at the time, I remember I watched a Microsoft Mechanics video where there was a gentleman doing a demo, and he was saying, pretty soon you will have the ability to do unattended access. And this was back in March of 2023 when I watched this, and I was like, oh, cool. So I just kept waiting for unattended access for Windows devices, and it never came. And I think a lot of the community has been waiting. And I've been on, and I'm not kidding, I've probably been on hundreds of meetings since then to talk about Intune. I'm a pre-sales engineer, but I focus on testing and demoing these features to help partners and end customers understand the technologies so they can deploy them. So when unattended access, when people would ask me in the meetings, they'd be like, they would say, use TeamViewer. It has access. Does Remote Help have that? And I would say, no, it doesn't. And then everybody would go, oh, and then they would not consider looking at the tool because they needed that, right? As a managed service provider, you have certain devices out there that you have to have unattended access for. Okay, so they would just use other tools. So now what I'm saying is that in August of 2026, if you have a user that has a license with Remote Help, and you are using and you need unattended access for that user, and you're using a third party, if you have Remote Help, consider using it because now it includes unattended access. And I know because I proved it myself in my own lab, and I'm going to show you that in the demo. So here's the important thing to understand. The device must be corporate owned and Intune enrolled. It cannot be Intune enrolled BYOD. It has to be hybrid joined or intra-joined. I've never tested with a hybrid device. I've been doing this since 2017, and I've never done anything with a hybrid joined device. So that's 9 years, okay? I know most people are like, you've never done hybrid? Like, nope, but I know Intune. All right, physical Windows device. It has to be a physical Windows device. I've tested, and I will show you later in a demo that it will not work on a cloud PC. It has to be AMD 64 or x64 architecture. ARMed devices like Snapdragon are not supported right now. And I think the reason for that is because the bulk of devices being sold today are, Intel AMD type devices, right? The device has to be online. Let's be honest. So you can't be like a air gap device, right? Intune has to be able to get to it, right? And then of course the Intune management extension has to be installed. It has to be enrolled in Intune, right? You got to have a line of sight to it. So again, no ARM, no cloud PCs, no Azure Virtual Desktop or virtual machines, and no BYOD devices. Now, you can't use Remote Help. I don't think you can use Remote Help to connect to any Windows device. And so unattended access is just the same thing when it comes to BYOD specifically. All right, so here's a few things that I'm going to go through in demo now. So we're going to talk about licensing, tenant settings, the role that's available, the custom role that you need to give the user in order to be able to do the help desk session with unattended access. We're going to talk about the Remote Help app, and we're going to talk about monitoring and auditing, okay? All right, so let's jump in. Here is my Intune portal, and if I go under Tenant Administration and I click on that, and of course, since I'm doing a live demo, it's going to load slowly. But anyways, so here we go, Tenant Administration. Thank goodness this is loading slow at the exact moment that I need it. Let's try this. Just try a different tab. Sometimes that'll work. You guys know when you're waiting on, there we go. Sometimes you're waiting on Intune and it just spins and spins. That's just Intune. Okay, roles. Under my roles, when I originally set up, there's a lot of pre-built rules. Okay, you can see built-in role. I created my own custom role called Remote Help Full Access, and I did this a long time ago because I wanted to test unattended access, and I did everything I could to flip all the switches, but it never came because it wasn't available. Microsoft didn't support it until just the other day. So if I go under my custom role, this is the new thing that you're going to have to go do, okay? And you go under Remote Help App. This button right here will now be available. Windows Unattended Remote Control Sign In. Okay, allows the helper to access remote Windows devices using their own credentials without a sharer granting access. Okay, so flip that to yes. Review and say, for me, when it came to roles, since I had already created the role, this was all I had to do. Okay, flip that switch. That was part one of many, many things that you're going to have to do. Okay, let's go back and look. Okay, so there's that, the tenant setup. Now let's talk about the app itself. Okay. So here I am. I'm going to type the word remote under my apps in Intune, and what I want to tell you is that okay, this was an older version of the Remote Help that I had created a Win32 app before Remote Help was available in the Enterprise App Catalog. Okay, and if you guys don't know what the Enterprise App Catalog is, I can explain. What I tell people is when you're creating an app in Intune, we're going to look at the Microsoft Store. Okay. If you can find the app in the Microsoft Store, right? A popular one is Adobe Reader, for example. Here's Adobe Reader, and Microsoft makes that available as a Win32 from the Microsoft Store. If you have that available, you can do that. It comes with Core Intune. I suggest using that. However, and this has been like this the whole time, for some reason, Microsoft doesn't offer remote help in the Windows Store, okay? But I saw this today before I was testing for this. Windows Remote Arduino Experience. So Microsoft supports this, whatever this is, and I don't know what it is, but they do not support their own product called Remote Help inside the Microsoft Store. The reason I'm saying this is because now you have two options. You either have to go create your own Win32 app, okay, and you can get the version of the app from the docs, and then you create your own Win32, or in my case, you can, if you have Enterprise App Catalog, okay, which comes with the suite, then you can find Remote Help, okay, and in here, and this is what I use, okay, and what I've used, Remote Help, and it's interesting. I don't see what version it is. It doesn't say, but anyways, that's the one that Microsoft supports, okay. Now, with that said, there's another app. And you can see here, this was version 13.11, 5.0, so that's an older app. And this is the older one that I was using. See, I put older as of August 2026. I try to leave breadcrumbs for myself. This is the new app, the Remote Help 64 app that's available here. And then that's the one that I'm pushing. Failed. Let's see what devices failed. Let's see, failed. Okay, I'll have to go in and look into that, why these failed, but you can see that it did install and I'm good to go. And the one that I care about the most is the device that I'm going to be my target device. So let me show you what I'm doing today. Today, I'm coming at you live from, and I'll show you this. This is all my testing. Apologies for not having this ready to go. But here's my testing that I've been doing. I was doing some WinGet, and I want to show you that. Here I am right here, and if I just do system info, let that build, and I'll show you the device that I'm on right now is my Surface Laptop 7, and it is an ARM-based device. So as an admin, I can connect to an x64 device with unattended access, even if the device itself is ARM-based, but I can't flip that back around. I cannot connect to this device using unattended access. Now, what I did test is I tested using the access that was always available, like unattended, if you will. So what that means is I tested throughout this entire process, as I kept flipping switches to turn on the service for unattended access, I kept going back and testing, can I still connect even if the user grants consent? Okay, and I did that. Okay, that's a prudent way to test. Okay, but the most important thing that I'm trying to hit home here is that the Remote Help app has to be installed on the device. Okay, it has to be installed on the user's device and the admin's device. And a common question that this is the Remote Help app. the common question that I get is, can you go across a tenant? So could I go from tenant A and use remote help to connect to a user in another tenant? And the answer is no, okay? Just because that's a common request. All right, so in any capacity, remote help app has to be pushed to the device, right? That's important. Okay, and then we talked about the roles. We talked about the app. You can push it as a Win32 or go in the Enterprise App Catalog. And then if you want to, and there should be some session history here, if I go under Tenant Administration and I go under, let's see, Remote Help itself, right? First of all, obviously you have to go and turn that on, right? You're going to want to enable that if you haven't. So I forgot that, but that's definitely an important step. Make sure you enable that. And you would just configure allowed or not, right? In this case, allow remote help to unenrolled devices. Sure, if you want it, maybe not. And then disable chat. No, I don't want to disable chat because during my session, I want to be able to chat with the user. Okay, but maybe you don't. Okay. So then you can go and look up remote help sessions. So here you can see where I'm testing. This is my test device. My downstream test device is a Surface Laptop 4. The reason I'm doing that is because it's an x64. It's an AMD, or not. It's not an AMD, an ARM device. It's a x64 device, right? It's an Intel processor. So you can see here's my testing, and then here's where I test it. This is my ARM device and my cloud PC. The reason these sessions are live because, as I said before, these were my tests to make sure that it's working without unattended access. I wanted to make sure that in setting up unattended access that I don't break the type of access where a user would still have to give consent. So as I'm testing to make sure it's still working on my ARM device and on my cloud PC, okay? This is just the testing that I've been doing. And I'm hoping that sharing this with you will make you understand how much easier it is to do it, and along with that, also just some things to think about as you're testing, okay? So here's my sessions that I can see. So you can see just recently, yesterday when I was testing, I was able to connect to my Surface Laptop 4, and that has the, it's an Intel processor. All right, cool, let's keep going. Again, 3 core steps. RBAC with the role. There are some agents that you have to deploy. I'm going to talk about that, and then there's also a configuration profile that you have to create. Okay, so let's step into that right now. Let's talk. Okay, we talked about the roles. Okay, we already did that. Let's see, I already did that. Enable unattended control. I showed you that. We're going to talk about the 2 components that have to be installed now. Okay, so let's go here. So if you look at the documentation, and apologies for the scrolling here, it will show you. And here's the prerequisites, right? You know, you got to have, oh, and I love this. It's so funny because all the information always says E3, E5. You can just put another thing here, and anytime you see E5, just assume E7. If you've got a customer who's using E7, they get everything in E5. Okay, so Microsoft's going to have to start doing that with their documentation. All right, okay, here's that switch I told you have to go flip in the custom role. Here's shows you how to do that, and here's where you can get your agent. So if you click on this, it's going to download an MSI file. This will download another MSI file, and I'll show you where those are. All right, here it is, remote help, and here's the 2 MSI files right here. Okay, and then what you do is you create the content prep tool to make it into a Intune Win file. Okay, and I did that. Let's see, modified. Let's see, where were those? I forget where I put them now. I thought they. Oh, I did this on my cloud PC. So apologies, I'm on my bare metal device right now, so I can fire up my cloud PC to show you that. I will do that now on the fly, but just know that you download these MSI files and you turn them into Intune Win files. For anybody that's been around Intune for a while, you know that that's, you know, kind of what you have to do there, right? It has to be an Intune Win file, okay? And so I just fired up my cloud PC. You should be able to see that. It's booting up right now. You can see that it's in my enterprise cloud PC. And I wanted to show you those Intune Win files, but I'll just go back to that in a minute. Here we go. Thank goodness that my cloud PC is booting up right when I need it. Okay, so there we go. So there's that. And then the last thing you're going to do is create a configuration profile. Okay, let's see if this is booted up yet. Here we go. Okay, so downloads, and here it is, content prep tool as I showed you. Here's this, and then the Intune output. It outputs 2 Intune Win files, okay? One thing to note, and I'm going to say this probably more than one time, the documentation says that you want the agent to be installed before the bootloader. So what I did is I did this first, and then I waited to see that it had installed to the target device, which is the Surface Laptop 4. And then once I saw that I went and did the agent bootloader. I just did that as a prudent measure to make sure that they were installed in the order they need to be installed. Okay, because the agent has the bootloader has the dependency of the agent. Okay, so that's something really important to note. Okay, so then if I go back into Intune and I go under apps, as I mentioned, if I type the word remote, because this is what I called, I didn't change the name when I uploaded the MSI files and created the two Win32 apps with the Intune Win files. It automatically named it this, so I just kept it this name. I'm not going to change anything. So here, let me just go into this one. Here it is. This one's first. And if I go here, I can see, obviously, I've got some things to look for here. My device install status. Let me see what I did here. Here, perfect example, not applicable. I had created, and I'll show you this. I targeted this application, and this is my ARM device, and so you can see that it's not applicable because the filters were evaluated. I'll show you that in a minute. But the app itself, again, you just go in and you create, you can see where my Intune Win file was, and I uploaded that. So you take the MSI files, you convert them to Intune Win, and then you go create two applications. And in my case, I'll just pick one of them, the bootloader. If I go here and I look under device install status, I want to see that here it is. It is installed on my Surface Laptop 4, which is my target device, but it's not installed on my cloud PC. Okay, not applicable because the filters are evaluated, and it's not installed on my ARM device. Okay, and the filter that I'm going to show you is, let's go here. This is the filter. Okay, and it has to be intra-joined. Okay, so I've got a filter for that. It has to be x64. Okay, and there's no ARM and no cloud. I need to go change this because I actually updated it to cloud PC. So the rule syntax for me, this is what I did. The device architecture equals x64, or x64, AMD 64. Trust type equals Azure AD joined. What that's going to do is that will block, and it won't allow any registered devices, so no BYOD, because I don't want them to have the app. I can't use remote help anyways, but I don't want to install the app on that user's personal device. Then what I did was I didn't want it to include cloud PCs, so I went and said device model does not contain cloud PC and does not contain Windows 365. By doing that, you can see here that what this does is it's only going to, because what I did was let me tell you my process here. I targeted this for my properties. I targeted it to all devices, okay, but then include this filter. And the reason that I did that was because at some point soon, Microsoft, maybe they'll say, okay, now support is available for ARM devices. So I can simply go and tweak that filter, okay, or make a new filter. All right, so I hope you're following me here. In my case, I don't have any Windows 10 devices, so obviously check the operating system architecture at 64. Windows 11, 22H2. I think all my devices have at least 24H2, but I didn't see a need to do a minimum operating system of Windows 10 because I have no Windows 10 devices. I take that back. I do have one Surface Pro 5, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, so two apps have to be installed as Intune Win files. And then you want to verify that that's done. Okay, now let's go back here, and the last thing we have to do is create a configuration profile in Intune. Okay, so I'm going to go under here, and I'm going to go under configuration, and I called it Remote Help Unattended. Okay, just because that's my breadcrumb for me being able to get back. In this case, the same thing. What I did was I assigned it to all devices, and that same filter that I just showed you, where it's going to block ARM-based devices, so no Snapdragon, no cloud PCs, and no personal devices. That's what this filter is for. Otherwise, it'll push to all devices. It won't bother with iOS, Android, or iPad OS or Linux because this is a Windows-based configuration that I had set up through administrative templates, and this is the one that you're looking for here. Remote desktop services, remote desktop session host connections allow users to connect remotely by using remote desktop services. This has to be enabled, and then you have to push that to the device. So you can see here, the only thing that I really care about is is my Surface Laptop 4, which is here, okay? And of course I had to scroll to the bottom for that. Here we go, again, not applicable. The filter's kicking in and showing that I don't need this, right? Because it's this, in this case, it's an ARM device, it's a Snapdragon. Or if I go up here to my cloud PC, you can see actually that it did install. Oh, here we go. No, at the system level, it showed success. So now I have to go and look at this. For some reason, the filter didn't catch that. Okay, so this is just me in my own testing, knowing that I've got to go back and look at that, okay? All right, cool. So now, those are the things you have to do. So keep the same target device scope across RBAC, both AVD apps and the RDP configuration profile. So just make sure you have everything scoped across the board, which is what I've done. Okay, again, you got the agent and the bootloader, and then again, I created a filter. And the reason I created this filter is, again, I want only x64, I only want Azure joined because I don't want BYOD, and I don't want any cloud PCs. The reason I did the filter was because, again, and I've already said this, but I'll just repeat myself, later, one day, at some point, they're going to say, we've now opened up support for cloud PCs. So I can just simply go create another filter, or I can remove these two queries here, okay, this logic. And that will allow for cloud PCs to get all of the things that it needs that we've talked about, and then I can do unattended access for that. Okay, this is pretty much the same thing. In the settings catalog, you go create administrative templates, and then you would test and validate that all of that is there. Okay, I've kind of talked about that, so I'm not going to talk about it again. Okay, things to look out for. Again, you can only do this for x64 bare metal devices. Microsoft is saying you can't do it for cloud PCs and you can't do it for ARM. You can only do unattended for devices that are in scope, which is pretty much what we talked about. There you go, helper story. Okay, unattended. Okay, I've already talked about all this. Okay, and now again, one of the things that I want to show you is this. I tested this. Number one, as I was flipping switches, I tested from my cloud PC that I was able to connect to the Surface Laptop 4. Now remember, I'm the admin. I'm on my cloud PC. I can use Intune and unattended access to connect to a x64 device, which is my Surface Laptop 4. I also tested from my bare metal ARM device as an administrator if I could use Intune remote help to connect to a downstream x64 physical device. I can do that. And all along the way, I also made sure to test that the older way of doing it without unattended access was also working, okay? So that's just an important thing to note, all right? Okay, so before I close up here, now I'm going to show you, everybody's probably sitting here saying, hey, yeah, this sounds great, but what does it actually look like? Okay, here we go. Before I do my Surface Laptop 4, which I will have success on because I tested it, I want to show you here, this is my cloud PC. And if I go here, and I have tested this, you'll just have to take my word for it. What I did was I've tested new remote assistance, and if you have TeamViewer, you can use that. But for here, we're going to use remote help. And now here it gives you an option. Attended control, meaning that the user would have to initiate, they would basically have to agree on that. I'm not going to show you that, but I have tested that works. But if I go here and I click select, as it starts to fire up the session, it's going to give me a warning. It says unintended sessions are not supported because the device you're trying to connect to is a virtual machine. Okay, that is a limitation of the service. It's not something broken that I didn't do right. Okay, but now if I go back to my devices and I search my my Surface Laptop 4. Okay, now remember, this is my Surface Laptop 7. This is the one that I'm actually coming at you live from. This is an ARM-based device that I'm using as an admin to use the unattended session to connect to, but I cannot connect to this ARM device. I can't flip it back around. So ARM to x64, yes, for unattended, but I cannot connect to an ARM device yet with unattended. Okay, so I'm going to drill into this device, and just for the sake of the demo, I'll show you. This is x64. Okay. And then I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go here. And I did also test this. Before I tested unattended, I tested to make sure this still worked with the user granting consent. So here we go. Without further ado, something I've been waiting on for 3.5 years, and I just got it to work yesterday. So let's see if we can get this to work. So I'm sending the session. Now, what's going to happen is, yeah, perfect. So there you go. See, it's saying I can open the remote session. So now it's going to open on my side. And this is really cool. It opens in the browser, okay? And then you can choose a few things. So for example, if you have multiple displays, I don't, it's just a laptop, but if you had multiple displays, you can turn that on. And there's a few things you can do. I'm never going to click that because I might want, for me personally, I'm going to want to see this every time I do it. And especially because I give demos, but I'm going to connect now. Now what I'm doing is I'm creating an unattended access connection. Oh, and then what it does is, here's another good example. It actually asks you for your password. Okay, that's how you have to get in. And let's see if I typed it right. Oh, thank goodness. Okay, good grief. Just like everybody else, I hate passwords. Okay, now now just so you know, the Surface Laptop 4 is behind me here in my home lab, and I want you to know what happened on the other side of that device. When I logged in, it actually logged the user out. So now all I see is, like, if you walk away from your device and the device goes to sleep or something like that, then that's what you get. It's the lock screen. So it basically locked the user out. Now, I haven't tested, I did test this yesterday. If I log back in, what'll happen is it'll kick me out, okay? But what I did was I left this open to show you that this is, in fact, my Surface Laptop 4. Whoops, hold on, let's see. Send, okay, I'm going to allow that because it's probably needing that. So here's my Surface Laptop 4, and it's x64 based. And you can see that I'm connected to the session, see, session desktop, okay? I can actually prove that as well by going, if I go to a speed test, and I go here, we can see where it's going to connect. This is, it's AT&T, and I live in South Carolina, so it's connecting somewhere in Georgia, right? And then, you know, just showing you that I'm connected to Ethernet there. But the point is that, wanted to show you that it is x64. I just showed you that it won't connect to a cloud PC. And in full truth, I haven't tried to connect to my my ARM device because Microsoft says you can't do it, and I honestly just didn't want to push those two apps to the device. But let me just say this. So now I've showed you that it can work, right? I'm connected to the user's device, and I can do whatever I need to do, right? Maybe admin, if I want to do admin functions, right? I could do something there. I have full access to the device. I can do full administration on this device. Okay, and again, it opens in a browser, so that's kind of cool, as opposed to opening in the, because you can see here's my remote desktop app on my Surface Laptop 7, and it doesn't open there. It opens in the browser. So if I'm an administrator, now think about this. I'm on the user's cloud PC. You can see it's session desktop, right? If I go here, I'm back in the Intune portal. So I can actually be going back and forth between the user's device in the session, or I can go here and I can just be on my device if I'm doing configuration or whatever, right? And I'm going to test this live. If I log in, I'm logging in now to the PC as the user, and what should happen is that this session could, yes, it was disconnected. See, you have been disconnected because another connection was made to the remote PC. So I could reconnect, but that would then also lock the screen. So if the user connects during an unattended session, you will lose access to the session. That's something important to note, okay? All right, that's it. That is pretty much all I had to say. Let's go back here. Okay, again, my name is Mark Layton. I'm an M365 engineer from the Avail Group. Hit me up on LinkedIn. You can find me there, and have a great day. Thank you.